Hey guys, how you all doing? It is Friday, we're in the back of the van and it's vlog time. And I wanted to do something really positive to finish off the weekend so we could carry it with us through the weekend into next week and be really... But do you know what? That's difficult. It's really difficult when there's so much stuff going on about universal credit, about welfare reform. And I think that we need to enter the conversation, enter the debate. So stay tuned.
Don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up.
So as I said, I'm in the back of the van. I've got my laptop with me and I'm looking at some of the headlines that have been coming across my laptop in the last sort of 24 hours or so. And a lot of them about universal credit and about welfare reform. First one, universal credit U-turn on 2-child cap on benefit. So there's the policy is making a U-turn, the government making a U-turn. They were capping benefits on the number of kids that you had, which is like, that's punishing the children, isn't it? Well, there's a U-turn, they're having a U-turn on that. Finally, the next headline, High Court deals huge blow to welfare reform. This is a story about 4 women who took the Secretary of State, I think it was, DWP Secretary of State to court, challenging the way that he calculated their benefits. So for those of you who don't know, universal credit also covers in-work benefits, so tax credits and things like this. And people were getting penalised because of the way that their employers were paying them. So if their employer paid them a certain date in the month, it affected the amount of benefit, which meant that people were struggling to feed the kids. They were going to food banks and stuff like that, when legitimately they were entitled to that extra income from or the universal credit income to support them. But they were getting stopped because of the way that it was being calculated, or they weren't receiving it because of the way that they were being calculated. But the courts have challenged that. I also see that Amber Rudd announces a bid, this is from this morning, bid to give universal credit more compassion. I'll put links to all of it, you can read through that. But the irony is, my next headline is, young couple lose unborn baby after universal credit error left them homeless and forced to sleep rough in a car park. What? The rough sleeping figures up again in England, and they rise for the 7th year running. Absolutely crazy. And from the ONS, which is the Office for National Statistics, they estimate the number rose to nearly 600 people. 600 people who died on our streets or in homeless hostels and or homeless accommodation. 600. I live in London. When there's a stabbing, it's on the news. We have what? You know, a couple of hundred stabbings, deaths per year from stabbings. It's on the news all the time. 600 people died who were rough sleeping or homeless. That should have been on the news every other night. Every single one of those deaths should have been on the news, and they weren't. Oh, blimey. So, for me, one of the challenges is we have a system that is very much data and process driven. We can't just blame the individuals within these systems, because we have a system that's data and process driven. The culture in there is all about data and processing, and it seems to me that it's very inhumane. It's not connected to the human part of the system, which is us guys, which is me, which is you, whether you're claiming any benefits or not. You're part of the system. You're the human element. But the element that the smallest part of the system, the bit that drives it forward, is all data and processes. When I listen to local authorities and when I listen to government policy and all that sort of stuff, I don't hear names. I hear numbers and stats and all that sort of stuff, when actually the system is made up of the Lanas, the Claires, the Davids, the Pauls, the Johns, the Marys. It's made up with people, not numbers and figures and stuff, which is what people focus on. And while there's that disconnect, we're going to get the problems that we talk about here, because there's no emotion attached to a number. What's a number? It's a number, that's all. But if you talk about John or Mary or Peter or Susan, that's different. If we talk about brothers and sisters and aunties and uncles and mothers and fathers, that's different. And actually, I appreciate that we can't, when we're talking about a service, if you've got a service that looks after or has 1,000 customers, you can't say, well, read everyone's name off. I get that. But actually, we've got to find a way of connecting that human part of the system, us, to that policy bit. Because that's where it's missing, and that's where it's going to awry for me. I want to end up on a positive note if I can, or a bit of a call to action. But before I do, there's a couple of things I want to point out. There's a great guy called Chris Brill, works for Homelessness, part of the Expert Link tribe, if you want, as well. So he's written a blog recently about the delay in the rollout of universal credit, and that perhaps it might not be what it seems to be. And I think he might be right. Check that out. I'll put a link below. But I'll put a link to some of the tools that Homeless have got to help people with universal credit, bit of advice maybe, or what have you. So have a look at those. So how are we going to end up on a positive note? Well, the first thing to do is to recognise that actually there are people within the system, the data processing people, and they are human. They're not all just horrible, they're human. And so that's the first thing. The second thing is that it's us, the human part, that need to influence and change the system. It's us going to that part, not banging and shouting and screaming and hitting it over the head and punishing it, because that's what it does to us, is to go to it with love and compassion. But it's no good one person going and saying, look, with love and compassion, we need to change the system. It takes many of us. So the more of us that start doing something to change it, the better. So how can we do that? You can do that lots of ways, through your MPs, through the services that you use, through your local authorities. But actually maybe just having that conversation here on social media, because the government and local authorities do listen and watch out on social media. So you can tag them in if you want to. So let's start having those conversations. So if you're watching this, I'd really appreciate if you like it, you share it, you subscribe and hit the bell type thingies so we can get all the updates as we're going along. But most importantly, I'd love to hear your comments. Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think that actually it should be all data processing a leader and we should ignore the human element part of it? Or should we, as the human element part, be listened to? And if we should be listened to, how are we going to do that? I'm up for all of your comments. I'm up for all of your advice on this. But what I do want to do is I want to connect that human bit to the data and the policy driven bit so it works together. So that we don't read the headline. Because here's a question, if it was connected to the human part, would we be seeing those headlines? Would we have welfare reform and universal credit the way that it's working right now? I very, very much doubt it. So guys, and what we've got coming in the future, we've got Phil in the back of the van from Life Experience. We're having a conversation with him. We've got Debbie from Amy's Space in the back of the van. We're going to have a conversation with her, talking about the guys, about what they've been doing and what they're up to. This is real lived experience leading the way. But guys, until next time, stay safe.
Don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up. No matter what.
Have you subscribed yet? Till next time.